Tenma Ronin. Under the disgraceful reprimand of being blamed for his misconduct, he has been keeping pigeons for 7 years, similar to his retirement, and has lived with them. His surname is Tawara, his first name is Ikehikiro, 34, and 5 men, and since he stayed in a quiet house in Kujo village, he has been impersonating a pigeon, high in Kyoto, Shikama Beach, and far away to Tamba. I let go of my handheld pigeon, and get used to it freely. Not only Bale-concentric, these days he manipulates this pigeon like my alter ego, making him a confidant, Kozan Takai, calling Mankichi, and flying it to his sister. Her younger sister is a beautiful woman named Suzu, who hides her identity, and has lived in Awamori Hachisuka on the banks of the Anji River for quite some time. The messenger of the secret book is always the pigeon, and no one notices what means, or what kind of news he frequently exchanges. My husband, Suzu-sama, gave me a reply. Said the servant, Tosuk, who still put a small pigeon on his fist, and looked into Ikehikiro's bookstore from the edge. Did you come? Ikehikiro, who seemed to have been waiting for him, immediately untied the bow of Kabado's leg, released it into the birdhouse in the garden, returned to his desk, and smoothed out the wrinkles on the bark. Tosuk. I'm happy to finish reading. Finally, when Awamamor returns to Japan, a bell will be added along with him, and he will move to the back office of Tokushima Castle. Oh, that's a good thing, but then the messenger's pigeons have to go back and forth across the sea in Naruto. I'm confident. That distance isn't anything. I don't know if there are people who use pigeons so freely, or who have focused on this, except Ikehikiro. It's about time for the miso of the pigeon talk to come out. He every time, Tosuk laughed a lot. I'm proud of you, but this old man knows the seeds, so I'm not really impressed. Who asked me what a stupid thing is? I visited you at Tenma's mansion. Yes, Mr. Tsuniki said. It is true that Zhang Jieling of Tang was the originator of the carrier pigeon, but Ikehikiro was not the first. Did you say something like this? Yes, I heard that you can find it in various books such as Hachi *, Gay Insect, Level 31-93-49, Sushi and Return House Show in the Insect Erosion book. Ahahaha, don't say it's good anymore. I've always been given a Tengu lecture by my husband, so I often asked him about his indignation. The master slave, a female customer, visits the gate, which is laughing. When Tosuk came out, he was the wife of Mankichi. He seemed to be worried about something, and he sat down in front of Ikehikiro. How was it? Isn't it really sinking? Yes, Okichi said. Actually, my husband, Mankichi, hasn't returned home for 5 days today. He said he wasn't using it these days. What's wrong? I heard fum. But I'm in a bad mood. I'm worried that it's not good. I don't know where I am, or I'm not sure if I'm going to get out of cop, and I don't have a profession. Mankichi's jit will rust. Ikehikiro scolded him, but gradually, when he heard what Okichi spoke, it seemed a little impossible to scold him. At the Kayabashi exit, there was a person who picked up the jit with the name of Mankichi engraved and delivered it. The night before, he was seen at a clay brush shop, so when I asked him, he said that he went with a guest from Eno. Also, the guest's companion, Jingoro Karakusa, was after standing in Tadatsu, so he couldn't see what happened and the circumstances before and after. He was worried about Mankichi. I see Ikehikiro's complexion became a little suspicious. Wow, well, no, don't worry, go home and wait for the good news. Upon returning Okichi, he put a selection of Kabado in one place and hurried up the road of Aoda and pear tree fields where the early summer sun was shining, and climbed to the hill of the stranger's tomb. Ikehikiro stood on the hill of a foreigner's grave and wiped his sweat. Nice. I instinctively shook his head in all directions. Far from the dark blue sea, the shadow of the island in Awaji is like a dream. In the immediate vicinity, the color of the umbrella moves along the Maetsukshi of Kawaguchi, and the Sumiyoshi Road where the blue storm blows. So he let go of the pigeon. The pigeon soared as if Ikehikiro had the will. Looking at him with his hand in his hand, at first he went straight to the castle guard, but in an arc, he returned to the south, and flew away in the direction of Hata and Sumiyoshi village. Then, there was a sudden voice because of the stranger's grave. "Oh, homing pigeon. Isn't it a bale hall? If you look in it, you will see a samurai with a rough knitting hat, a thin haori coat, and a nice appearance. Oh, this is Mr. Tsuniki. I'm still enthusiastic," he smiled with a hat. "No, what?" Ikehikiro said, "Actually, a catastrophic change has occurred in Mankichi, the teacher, while worrying about the whereabouts of the pigeon." "Well, that's unfortunate." The samurai who sat down was Kozan Takai, a former Tenma Yuriki, who was a superior at the time of his active duty, and who received the same reprimand at the same time. Since then, the unfortunate hermits have been in close contact with each other, and secretly looking for something important. The loss of the two was a change in the Horiki calendar. That turmoil that occurred in Kyoto 8 years ago, counting from the second year of Maiwa, the conspiracy of Takenouchi Shikabu was broken, and when he saw the closing of the 17th family of the princes, Shikabu became a guilty exile. At the time of that incident, both Kozan Takai and Concentric Tawara of the 10-man group performed wonderfully. However, it was bad after that. The skills of the two of them were too cut, and it became a terrible thing. Kozan initially thought, this is deep-rooted. The important thing about the fall is not something that only long-sleeved theologians and lords can plot. There is a mastermind. There is a puppeteer. Certainly. He firmly believed. If so, where is the daimyo? Of course, Saigoku, the one Saigoku daimyo, is easy to move to Fengyun if there is a machine. Shimadzu or Mori. No, it's even more surprising. Kozan's to the pain, Tawara Concentric and Mankichi also spared no effort to search for various secrets and listen to them. Shigeki Hachisuka of Awa 250,000 stones, a young but brilliant temperament, wrapping up the thought of Qin Wang, and Takatake Kengaku, a family member, secretly ceremonies before it is rumored that he was invited to listen to the theory and trained a warship on the beach of the territory. The mastermind is across the sea, Kozan said. Awa is a mysterious country of origin. With money, elite armed forces, and a country that is convenient for wrapping secrets, Ichicho Awaji is used as a foothold for Osaka, and when it takes root in Kyoto, it corresponds to Saigoku daimyo. And a strong position, it's important to throw it away. He immediately wrote his opinion, and sent it to Hojodai Sakai. However, there was no one to listen to, such as Castle Guard, Makibugyo, and Shashidai, and his overwriting became a source of ridicule, and was thrown back. In other words, this is all a pity. I won't be such a stupid back shield. Awa is a family member who has been given Matsudaira's surname, and has received the name of the shogun for generations. That's why. Kozan finally had the theory. Awa's power is so great, and even the shogunate is afraid, he said, regardless of the surroundings, and made him concentrically explore. However, before moving on to that activity, the two are reprimanded. It took the form of not reaching the service. Kozan and Ikehikiro still believe that they listened to the noisy surroundings, saying, both of them have passed the Tengu, and I think they became so-called delusional enthusiasts because of their fame. For the next 7 years, I have been devoted only to exploring the inside of Awa. The handy thing is Mankichi. Because he has a light status, he has no blame, and he is still with the Eastern Magistrate, and from the place where he is taking 10 moves, he will immediately inform you when he hears something about Awa. Now they are loyal men. The Mankichi was missing. Kozan Takai was also surprised. Ikehikiro says that he will find out where he is when he picks up the pigeon he has just released. Kozan stood up, saying, well, let's help this one as well, but he remembered something, and went back to Stasta, and the grave of a stranger. There was one companion there. A man with a dignified appearance who is neither a samurai nor a doctor. He had copied the orchids and shapes of the tomb, but Kozan told him about the situation, and later came to Ikehikiro's side. I am Hiraga Janayan Eno, the carrier pigeon is interesting, I would like to accompany one even if it bothers me. In addition, one person grew up and accompanied 3 people, went down the hill of the alien grave, and hurried to the direction where the pigeon flew. On the other hand, in the grove of Sumiyoshi village, a hidden mansion of a fellow unloader, Saburo Sukahiro's sword drew a three-shaku rainbow under the vertebrate tree on Mankichi's head. 2. Sanbei's breath and hands were about to be released quickly, with the moments, Kobutan, Sanji and others, and the rewards on the porch of this place. Is there such a sword? I went out and blocked Toya's hand. Dangerous, what's in the way? Because it's a sin, isn't it? A beautiful eye that blames, there is no song for a person who is not free, even though he shows a sword. No, don't stand up. And even the villains may have a little bit of mercy. Why don't you untie the rope, rampage, and slash the opponent? It's the same no matter which one you choose. No, I just feel better. It looks good and I feel like I'm not guilty. The kaiken that I pulled out of the obi while I was talking. Mankichi's rope was cut into pieces. Well, I'll lend you this, so you're like a man. He let me hold the handle of the kaiken. I'll give it to you with the eyes of the return of Karuta Waranda. Thank you. Mankichi stood up suddenly for the wrong hand. As the tuna flies away like a butterfly, Miyoshi, Hayato, and Tame also stand up and become ferocious. I see, this is more energetic. The voice of Toya. The eeriness of Sukahiro extending from under the vertebrate. Hirari, with his right hand deep and his left hand shallow, with a snake eye on the back of his sword, twisting the thread of his sword. Mankichi is the sweat of plaster. Yuri, and then retreated. No life anyway. I am prepared. However, I thought that I would like to ask that strange woman with a pocket paper case an important letter to deliver it to the bale, but the quick connection is at that time, I couldn't see this garden anymore. Yes, it's a rash. Mankichi stopped and shot his scary eyes in his hand. The sharp points of Pita and Sunbei also stop. At that time, it wasn't the wind, a big flapping of the young leaves of the vertebrate. It's a pigeon. Oh, I came to look for me. As soon as Mankichi's eyes turned upward, Sanbei's blade ran diagonally. Mankichi lay on his back as his chest was squeezed by a sharp point, but he bounced off and took the trunk of a tree like a squirrel. Bad. It's really quick to jump on Toya. The white blade and the person swirled around the trunk of the tree. Kabato, who has fallen diagonally from the roof, jumps at the tip of Saburo Sukahiro, as if he was crazy about something. Mankichi, let's be firm. There was a sudden voice on the wall. Oh, my husband. Ikehikiro is here, it's okay. The bales that jumped down with a palm were concentric, and they joined forces to reach the side of Toya. Suddenly, the ones who stood up were the ones who were the unloaders, including Kobutan Sanji, the ones who flashed Wakazashi, the ones who were confused, and the ones who pushed the rust spear. The sight of the sword slashing has begun to see the unexpected blood. Then again, Kozan Takai, one of the assistant swords who has kicked Kido. Tsuniki-style Hojojutsu is a master who forgives both himself and others. However, nowadays, as a case of slashing rather than catching, he slashes Yuzo as soon as he pulls it out, and slashes the arm of the Ronin Hayato. Not only that, outside the fence. A shout of I'm sorry. Finally, the fellow loses his degree, and only Sunbei joins the bad fight. However, it is suspicious that Kozan and Ikehikiro, who are not useful, brought a catcher so quickly. When I looked outside, there was no catcher, and a man was sitting in front of the grove. I'm calling. He has a thin chanmage and a thin chin. It is in Hiraga Janai, who accompanied me from a foreigner's grave. A doctor, an author, a samurai, and a commercial lawyer, but one martial artist can't help Janai and Kaido Ranma, so sometimes from there. Go. That said, he is fanning his chin with a Chinese fan. The whirlwind of the swashbuckler that struck the unpacking mansion at noon was gone in an instant. When the screaming and noise turmoil stopped in the enclosure, the quietness of the forest returned to its original state, the tranquility of the forest, which was like Sumiyoshi village, and it was a chilling rainstorm. Which Janai? Janaden. Sit up to the voice calling in the distance, squeeze the Hiraga Janai, Tangjin fan, and insert it into the obi. Ha, don't you think it's done? I jumped in a hurry from the trampled Kitaguchi. Looking at it, there are spots of blood in the garden, the shoji screens have fallen miserably in all directions, and Kozan Takai has tied up Kozan Takai in the back of Miyoshi Kobaten, and the two minions of the unloader. I was killed, Professor Tsuniki. No, it was so bloody. Janai frowned at his nose and walked in, creepy. And what happened to the bales? Only the one who claims to be Toya escaped quickly, so I started to run after him. By the way, I'm sorry for Janai Den, but Mankichi, who is lying down there, can you give me some treatment? I understand. If it's medicinal food, it's something in Janai's hand. Oh, I'm fainted, and when I'm tired for a few days, I suddenly saw help, so I think I was relaxed at one point. While drawing well water into his mouth and taking out his own medicine from the inro, Kozan pulls out the tied-up tertiary and his minions and sneaks into one room. I've pointed it out. Ikehikiro Tawara came back there with a breath of breath. I couldn't even wipe the sweat that was flowing, saying sorry, kneeling in front of Kozan Takai. I chased to the end of the forest, but Sunbei was not only sharp in his arms, but also a scary and agile guy. I'm sorry to lose sight of him immediately. No, if you try to save Mankichi, the one who escaped will be insignificant, said Kozan, looking back at one side and saying, how about Janai-den, Yoko? I noticed, don't worry anymore. This is Mankichi, Mankichi. Oh. Mankichi, who began to moan, got up and looked around, but when he reflected Kozan and Ikehikiro in the picture, he jumped and slammed. Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm sorry. If my husband didn't do it, this Mankichi would have been fertilizing the vertebrate tree. It seems to be truly happy to have both hands attached. How are you feeling? Isn't it a good idea? It's okay, I'm sick of this, and I don't have a face with the title of awakening. That's right. There is an item I want to see both first and foremost. From the back of the body band, grab it in your hand. I sent out an example letter that I suddenly got at a store of a clay brush shop. Even if Mankichi's life is taken, I don't know how much he struggled for the last 4 or 5 days to hand over this one. From a daughter named Chie and Edo Omote Tokoga Zitni, who entered Awa. Anyway, please take a look inside. What is Zimi Motokiyo? Just hearing the name changed the face of Kozan quickly. Ikehikiro was sure to read silently from the side of the unfolded letter, holding his breath. Before and after the Horiki change, Kozan and Ikehikiro shouted that there was Awa behind the Lord, and that there was Hachisuka in the mastermind behind the plots of Shikaibe and Yamagata Dani, but no one was there at that time. However, there is a rumor that one person, Obu Kozan Gumi, had the same mastermind and entered Awa alone, and I heard that it was Kozan Takai, so they are now. The name was deep in my mind. I got a mysterious thing. As I read, the facial expressions of the two became wonders, delights, suspicions, and deeply emotional eyes. If you meet a woman named Oki, you will find out more about it. You will know about Zimi's future, his purpose, and the intentions of the shogunate. Mr. Kozan, let's bring my man, Mankichi, and immediately head down to Edo. Oh, it would be great if Kozan and Mankichi visited the Koga family, and saw the reality of something. By the way, Kozan, and in the meantime, Kozan's Miyoshi, and the minions of the unloader. As a result, I will make a secret ship to go to Awa, and prepare everything. The nest of the unloader was replaced by Ronin Tenma, and he went to a secret meeting with Kozan Takai on that day.